all three. Hope you're all doing good today. Today we're going to be going over some content over the Gilded Age, such as the Grange movement, Sherman Antitrust Act, and unionism. We'll also be talking about early reformers such as Thomas Nast and Jane Addams. We'll be mostly going over the Gilded Age and some topics like railroads and all that. So, hope you guys enjoy a little presentation today. Just sit tight and listen to us. Call us Reaction Team. The Grange movement was caused through farmers in the Midwest reactions to railroad and grain monopolies. This movement included the creation of the Grange, a farmer group dedicated to fighting monopolistic wrongdoings and encouraging political and economic well-being. To do this, they did such things as passing multiple laws for the state. They also brought farmers together to advance the art of farming too, which is pretty good. They also encouraged states to pass regulatory legislation to counter price fixing by railroad companies. This movement was an overall good effort in fighting the corrupt railroad industry, but due to the loopholes in the government's abilities, there wasn't the best intervention that could have happened. But we'll go into that later. One of the first things that the people, including the Grange, reacted to was the railroad companies and what they did. It can be said that the railroad companies were not without corruption. They used a handful of dirty tricks and other corrupted things to make money. They bribed judges and legislators for favorable votes. Yeah, you should support the railroads. Nah, I'm alright. No, let's go. Whole wheat bread? They employed arm-twisting lobbyists.
What the heck, man?
Support the railroads? They were elected to their own political offices.
Hey, can I be president?
Yeah, sure, why not? And they gave their own rebates to companies that did a lot of business on the railroad. This meant that big companies effectively paid a lower rate than small companies, which paid a higher rate. Ow. Well, some people noticed that there was this corruption, but they were slow to combat it. However, the Grange was formed by farmers to combat such corruption. One of the things they did to call out this industrial problem was setting solutions and state laws that would hopefully be passed by the government. Here are some examples. Resolved by the farmers of Illinois in mass meeting assembled that all chartered monopolies, not regulated and controlled by law, have proved in that respect detrimental to the public prosperity, corrupting in their management and dangerous to republican institutions. Resolved that the railways of the world, except in those countries where they have been held under the strict regulation and supervision of the government, have proved themselves arbitrary, extortionate, and as opposed to free institutions and free commerce between states as were the feudal barons of the Middle Ages. Resolved that inasmuch as the Supreme Court has clearly pointed out the way to reach unjust discriminations made by the railroads of this state, we could see no reason for delay on the part of the legislature enacting the necessary laws on the subject, and would urge immediate action therein. That was some bad handwriting in there. These dictions heavily ushered the government into making railroads for the public to use and manipulate rather than having them there only for what it seemed to be profit and monopoly. Before we go on to the next topic of the multiple cases that resulted from the this Grange movement, we best talk about the block voting. Block voting is a theory that people with the same characteristics will vote in the same way. Generally, people of the same family, residence, geography, age, education, occupation will all vote for the same political party. This method of voting was clearly shown in the Grange movement. This is due to the mass cooperation of farmers everywhere who were affected by the grain and railroad practices and helped in conceiving the state laws. Munn v. Illinois introduced a short era in which U.S. public utilities were subjected to increased scrutiny. The Illinois legislature responded to the pleas of embattled farmers by enacting a law that established a maximum charge that could be imposed by grain storage facility operators. A Chicago warehouse known as Munn & Scott was found guilty in 1872 of violating this law. They appealed to the matter of the Supreme Court, which rendered a decision by 7-2 vote in March 1877. The majority upheld the Illinois law and reasoned that the state has legitimate police power to regulate private enterprises that may adversely impact the public interest. The court refused to accept the operators' arguments due to the due process clause. Instead, they say that the state might act even though in doing so it may indirectly operate upon commerce outside its jurisdiction. In the Wabash case of 1886, the Supreme Court reversed its position initially put forth in Munn v. Illinois by holding that Illinois legislation enacted to regulate railroad rates interfered with the Congress's ability to exercise its authority over interstate commerce. This ended the brief era of state railroad regulation. Early efforts to bring some form of regulation to the Giants were made at the state level, but was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1887, they passed the Interstate Commerce Act, which created the Interstate Commerce Commission, the first true federal regulatory agency. It was designed to address the issues of railroad abuse and discrimination and required the following. Rates had to be reasonable and just, secret rebates were outlawed, and discrimination against small markets was now made illegal. Alright, so I'm back. New clothes and new braces. But yeah, that was the Granger Act, or the Granger movement, sorry. And it was a really good example of the people's power in instating a law system on a state level. They went for better economic values, they tried to advance arts of farming, they did a lot of good stuff that called out what the corrupt child railroads were doing. It's a pretty good effort. However, it was kind of watered down by the government. Can't really do much. Back then, government's still trying to work itself out. But yeah, so I'm trying to give over to my other two wonderful group members, Brent and Samantha. Here we go.
The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 was the first measure to prohibit trust and to make it illegal for companies to do like monopolies and stuff.
Yeah, Chan.
Not that kind of monopoly.
What?
Now I don't mean monopolies like board games. That's the clip. I mean monopolies like how companies manipulate prices and take total control of commodities or services. So it makes it so that there's no competition, you know.
Yo, this be the dopest iPhone ever, for real!
Well, I have an Android.
Quiet, home fry, I ain't got time for this. Mine is touchscreen.
Well, mine is touchscreen too, and it has a full keyboard.
Well, mine got a touch keyboard,
Well, mine plays music.
Turn that whackness off, man. Turn that whackness off. Listen to the real jam. Yeah, real jam. And plus, mine got a camera.
Well, mine does too.
Your phone is ratchet. I'm dipping.
If you make your prices lower than the others all the time, there's not going to be any competition, and more people are going to come to your company than the others. So, this act was to increase economy competitiveness, because it's always good to have competition in the economy, because you don't want one company controlling the economy. So like if Apple, there was like no competition between Microsoft and stuff, then if there was no competition between like Microsoft and stuff, then if Apple like somehow just went down and stuff, and it was in control of most of our economy, then our economy would go down as well. So, it was named after Senator John Sherman, and it was in reaction to big business. Like I said, like, 'cause this is the Gilded Age is where big business started popping up everywhere, and stuff like tobacco companies and all that, like oil companies and stuff. So this was, yeah, so one business wouldn't have a huge amount of power. Several states tried to pass a law, like laws before this, to try to do their own thing about this, but because it was states, it was only limited to states, so like interstate businesses wouldn't be affected by this. President Taft used this act in 1911 against the Standard Oil Trust and the American Tobacco Company. Further in the future, this act would be supplemented by the Clayton Antitrust Act that was made in 1914, and because there was a lot of more acts or rules that would be made because of this act, the Sherman Antitrust Act lost a lot of its power in 1920. Oh, and the Federal Trade Commission was also set up in 1914. Again, the results of this act were the tobacco companies would suffer, along with the American Railway Union and Northern Securities Company. So if it wasn't for this act, there would be a lot of companies that would control the economy, and that wouldn't be good, because if one of those companies were to go down in flames, I guess, then the economy would do really bad and there would be recessions. So yeah, that was the Sherman Antitrust Act.